This video is brought to you by my generous backers over on Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel and get cool perks like access to the Discord, seeing the videos a week before anyone else, or exclusive Patreon only gameplays, then feel free to check out my Patreon. The link's in the description below. A couple of Orzhov commanders going against each other. Teysa, Orzhov, Scion versus Athreos, God of Passage. New Athreos coming out soon. Don't really know what I make of it though. I think it's too slow, especially compared to this Athreos. We will keep that. We've got a turn 2 and a turn 3 play in our enchantments. There's a Numizawa's Jitte. We'll go for tap land in Verdant Catacombs. Alright, getting to a plains. I was going to go for a plains with the Windswept Heath, but I think we can go scrubland now. So let's do that and go in for Bitter Blossom. Alright, and there is Daxos the Returned. I'm actually looking to build this because there's lots of good cards coming out for it in the new Theros set. Won't be building it anytime soon though. We've got a lot of commanders to cover from the new Theros set. Let's go for a swamp into Phyrexian Arena. Start drawing more cards. Oh, and that's a No Mercy. Yeah, don't like seeing that. We've got removal for enchantments at least. So let's make another fairy. And, okay, that's a sack outlet. We'll draw a card into Damnation. That is... yeah, that's Viscera Seer into Teysa. Because Viscera Seer will be able to convert these into spirits. And that means that we can start exiling things. So definitely not going to swing into a No Mercy. Okay, Liliana of the Dark Realms. They've got 3 swamps, so they can kill off our commander here if they want to. I say we just leave... yeah, I think we let them do that. They'll have to... it's -3, is it? Yeah. They'll have to kill off their own Liliana if they want to do that, and we can just replay Teysa next turn. That is what they're going for. So... yeah, we'll just leave the Fairy Rogues in place. And we'll allow our opponent to hit us with Daxos if it wants to swing in. Now, if our opponent's got a swords, then that will be a problem, but they don't have too many cards left in hand, so... yeah, we've got mana and card draw. We should be able to keep ahead of our opponent, even if we have to replay Teysa. So we'll get her out again. Now we've got enough white creatures, after they've been sacrificed, to get rid of Daxos. Not worried about the number of experience counters our opponent has, because... we can exile Daxos, and with that not being their commander, won't be able to make use of that for the rest of the game. Okay, Exquisite Blood. They get an experience counter. Yeah, we'll just allow the XP counter for now. We have to really keep an eye on them getting that combo down with the Sanguine Bonds, I think it's called. Okay, so let's sacrifice there. We'll get a spirit out of the deal and we'll get a scry. Might be able to scry 3 cards to the bottom here. Certainly want to put a land on the bottom. Sacrifice another fairy and it's another land. So Viscera Seer doing some work for us here. Elesh Norn I don't mind keeping, so we'll put that on top. And then we lost life, so our opponent gains that much life. Losing life to the Bitter Blossom. And we've got Demonic Tutor. We can't go for Elesh Norn just yet. We can Demonic Tutor for enchantment removal though. Let's drop a Plains. And we'll go Demonic Tutor into... Do we have the 4 mana remove 2 things? What is that thing called? Return to Dust, I think it's called. Yes, we do have Return to Dust, so let's tutor for that. Get rid of 2 things that our opponent has. And that's some good value for us. Then we can... we can swing in with the Spirits. And we're actually online for Elesh Norn next turn, so I don't think I'm going to exile Daxos. I think we'll let Elesh Norn deal with Daxos, and if they want to reanimate Daxos at some point, then so be it. Okay, Sorin Grim Nemesis, I think that's removal as well, isn't it? X damage. Yeah, they can do a total of 6 damage to something. They probably just go after Teysa again. But we can deal with Sorin quite easily after we drop the Elesh Norn, so not too bothered about that. And we can afford to recast Teysa again. Now our opponent's only got 1 card in hand, but they decide to not go for the card advantage with Sorin Grim Nemesis. Instead, deciding to get rid of our Teysa again, we will allow it. And then more tokens and more card draw. Oh, Recurring Nightmare. If I'd known we were going to draw into that, we could have put Teysa in the bin. Not to worry. Let's just go straight in for Elesh Norn. And that gets rid of our opponent's Daxos. We've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Yeah, so we'll put 1 in on Sorin. And then the rest in on our opponent. And now I don't really see what our opponent can do. They could go for Decree of Pain maybe and draw a bunch of cards off of wiping this board. But they're pretty much in top deck mode as far as I can tell. Okay, it's another Planeswalker in Elspeth, Sun's Champion. That's the 3rd one of the game. And they can blow up the... It's only Elesh Norn they're getting rid of there, so I don't feel too bad about that, especially with Recurring Nightmare in tow. And we can get rid of that with Merciless Eviction anyway. Let's drop a land. We'll go for the Recurring Nightmare. And we'll get rid of that Summoning Sick Fairy Rogue. That lands. I think our opponent was reading it there. So we get back our Elesh Norn, sacrifice the Fairy. And we'll get rid of... it paused for a minute there, so I thought our opponent was scooping. Yeah, they see Elesh Norn comes back. And we can get it back consistently thanks to our board state. We just get rid of Elspeth there, and then it is 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 points of damage on our opponent. In fact, we could have gone straight in at our opponent. That would have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 18. And then gone for Zulaport Cutthroat for the win. Yeah, so probably would have gone for that actually. We just sacrifice the tokens. And Zulaport Cutthroat will drain our opponent for the remaining 2 life. So yeah, pretty convincing one there, I think. We had our opponent on the back foot the entire game. That felt like a pretty quick one, so you're probably going to see another one now. The somewhat mirror match. Teysa Orzhov Scion versus Teysa Karlov. I've never played against Teysa Karlov with this deck before. Going to keep, we've got a combo piece in Darkest Hour. And then we've got some card draw as well, so let's start things off with a tap. I really like having Skullclamp and Bloodghast together. So there's no reason that we can't get off to a really good start here. Recruiter of the Guard is good as well. Let's go in for Bloodghast. And yeah, our opponent's just ramping this turn, as you might expect. Let's go in for... Just in case our opponent wastelands, we'll go in for a forest here. I think is alright. No, it won't be alright. A plains, not a forest. Let's then go for Skullclamp. Or we could just go for our commander. Yeah, let's go for our commander first. Seems like a good play to make on turn 3, because then we can start making use of Darkest Hour and Skull Clamping the Bloodghast. We'll have to make our lands in order, but I think the sooner we can start drawing cards, the sooner we can decide what we want to tutor for here. Well, okay, that stops us in our tracks. Say no mercy from our opponent. Let's go for... That Bitter Blossom is tempting. Yeah, let's drop the Skull Clamp. Certainly not going to swing in and have that thing die. And we want to get into more cards here anyway, so that we can try and draw into more lands. And there we go, clearing 2 big things off the top, which is why I have plumped for the Skull Clamp here. Because we definitely want to be making lands if we can. Let's go for Skull Clamp again. And then I'm actually going to play out the Darkest Hour. Alright, we've got a land to make now. Yeah, we'll play out the Darkest Hour so that if our opponent does have spot removal, they might want to aim it there, assuming that they know about the combo. We can actually keep clamping the spirit there, and it will replace itself immediately with another spirit. So, effectively, Skull Clamp is now just 1 mana, draw 2 cards, and we lose nothing. Immeria the Sky Ruin from our opponent, and they do have 2 planes. They're a long ways off of activating Immeria though. And then a Pious Evangel. Whenever it or another creature enters, you gain a life, and then 2 and sack a permanent to transform it. And yeah, it turns into a Blood Artist pretty much, so that's fine. Now, the only problem with Darkest Hour, we can draw a boatload of cards, but we actually switch off Teysa's sacrifice 3 white creatures ability. But while we've got Skull Clamp in play, I don't think we really care about that. Let's drop the planes. Say yes there. And then we've got plenty to do now, so why don't we... Yeah, we can always tutor for something with the Sidisi Undead Vizier. I think I just want to progress the mana this turn. Felwar Stone is an Orzhov Rock, which is really good. Yeah, so let's go for the Bitter Blossom. And then we can clamp a Spirit. We actually could have swung in first. Yeah, and gotten 2 points of damage off on our opponent, because when this thing dies, it'll replace itself anyway. We get into some more lands, so that's good. Yeah, let's go for another clamp. We just want to really outvalue our opponent as best we can. And clearing more lands off the top there. Now we will hit our opponent for a point of damage. And as we can see, the spirit replaced itself, so that's a type of weird vigilance. Windbrisk Heights, I don't think we care about. This is Hexproof and Shroud it cares about, so we'll keep that probably. Yeah, I think I'm okay to get rid of a swamp here. Just worried about my opponent getting into a Lightning Greaves or something like that. Might go in for Elesh Norn again with the Sidisi Undead Vizier, because that did some work for us last game. Hidden Stockpile, that's a good card. Yeah, I do like Hidden Stockpile, might be worth including it in this deck. And then they go for a Pack Rat, which is another card that I like. I'd love to build a Rat Tribal deck at some point, but I don't think it's quite there in the high power level of things. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. So we can go for the Sidisi Undead Vizier. Or we could just go in for Elspeth and start ticking that up. No, I think I want to go in for the Sidisi. And then the Exploit will trigger. We will get rid of a Fairy Rogue, which will instantly replace itself with another Summoning Sick creature. And we will certainly tutor with that. And seeing as how we've got a bunch of creature tokens in play, let's go for the Elesh Norn again. And then what else could we do? Let's just go for more Skull Clamp stuff. The more cards we draw, the more likely we are to get into some kind of combo or something like that. Thoughtseize, I don't mind. Let's have a look at our opponent's hand. Okay, they've got Elspeth Sun's Champion of their own. I think that's the one to get rid of. This introduces the monarchy, doesn't it? Yeah, we don't care about that. It is Elspeth I definitely want to get rid of there. And then we'll clamp a spirit again. And you're seeing the power. I mean, Skull Clamp's really good in this Teysa as well because it doubles up its triggers, but it's really, really good when you don't have to worry about losing a load of creatures. And speaking of losing creatures, we don't care if anything dies here. In fact, things will die to the no mercy, but we want to push damage through as best we can. It's up to them if they block, of course. They could have gone for a block and sack with the hidden stockpile, but they don't want to lose either of their creatures, apparently. So all of those things get replaced with spirits. And then we discard stuff. So let's get rid of Phyrexian Arena and 2 more. Yeah, how about Sengir Autocrat? And let's get rid of Recruiter of the Guard. Ranger of Eos gets us into a sack outlet. But then again, so does Recruiter of the Guard. Yeah, I don't suppose. I think it's negligible between the two at this point. Alright, our opponent discarding the Custody Lich that we know about to activate the Pack Rat, which gains our opponent a life. What flips that again? Just 2 and sack another permanent does it. Okay, and then they cast the Liliana, which gains them another life. They don't have the 2 mana to put into that anymore. They haven't ramped as well as we have. And we're going to wipe out pretty much all of their board here when we drop the Elesh Norn. Okay, there's a tutor as well. Let's drop the Arcane Lighthouse. Throw out a Bloodghast. Then we'll throw out the Gilded Lotus. And that'll be 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Glad I didn't miscount that. Might as well go up 3 mana for the rest of the game. We go into Elesh Norn. And that wipes out our opponent's board pretty much. And then we can... This is when we deal damage to the player, yes. So let's just... yeah, okay, our opponent scoops it up there. I mean, they've got no cards in hand and we've got a really good board here, so that's fair enough. I think we just got off to a way better start than our opponent. We had Skull Clamp, Darkest Hour and Bloodghast in our opening hand, and that's just all we could ever wish for in this deck, really. Our opponent was unlucky with regards to their removal that I assume they have in the deck. But all we were going to do there is swing probably the Sidisi in at Liliana just for the sake of keeping hold of it. And then these would have been 4, 8, 12 damage coming through to our opponent. So then we just swing in for the victory next turn most likely, unless our opponent top decks a board wipe. So hopefully you all enjoyed this return to Teysa Orzhov Scion. A lot of you have spoken up about this deck and said that you actually really like it, which the views didn't show the very first time I released her, but obviously a lot of you have joined since then, and I'm really glad that you like her because she's one of my favourite decks. So hopefully you all enjoyed it. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.